Let us pray. O God, we come together in your name in this Parliament to debate our nation's affairs and pass laws for the betterment and welfare of all Fijians. Guide us in our deliberations and grant us the wisdom to do what is just and fair. We ask you to bless our beloved nation and grant every Fijian peace, prosperity, and equal opportunity. Help us to serve our citizens with honesty, integrity, and without fear or favor, to keep the trust of those who have sent us here. We seek your divine guidance to continue to build a better nation for all Fijians. In your name, Amen. Amen. Honorable members, please be seated. Secretary General.
Ministration of Oath or Affirmation. Mere tui salalo na ulumatua.
I, Mary Salalo Matua, swear that as a member of Parliament of Fiji, I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Fiji, and that I will obey, observe, uphold, and maintain the Constitution of the Republic of Fiji and all other laws of Fiji, and I solemnly and sincerely promise that I will defend the rule of law and the rights of the people, and will act with integrity and diligently carry out my responsibilities in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic of Fiji and the law. So help me God. Oath of Allegiance for Member of Parliament. I, Meriti Salalo Noel Matua, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Fiji according to law, and I will obey, observe, uphold, and maintain the Constitution of the Republic of Fiji. So help me God.
Honourable members, I would like to congratulate the Honourable member who has just been sworn in, and I welcome the Honourable member to Parliament, and I wish you well in the remainder of your parliamentary term. Honourable members, I will now invite the Honourable Mary Naulumatua to deliver a maiden speech. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. The Honourable Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, the Leader of the Opposition, dear Honourable Members of Parliament, it gives me great pleasure to stand before you all in this august house at this juncture. It may be 6 months away from national elections, and given the way I have come into this august house, some may say that I am in the middle of a perfect storm. In my lifetime of experiences, I have learnt God in His infinite wisdom has designed everything for our good and to make us Christ-like, to bring Him glory. It is therefore no accident where we find ourselves even under some strange circumstances. God has a perfect plan, and there are no accidents with Him. The family you were born into was no accident. The country you live in, the language you speak, the friends you make, your weaknesses, mistakes you have made, poor decisions, none of them are accidents to God. Failures with your spouse and children, things you wish you had done differently, painful experiences, none of them are accidents to God. I come from a lineage of people of the cloth. My grandparents were Wakatawas, and a great deal, and my great-grandfather came all the way from England as a medical doctor, who later became a reverend in Tonga. For us, the words of God are our guide, as is provided in the book of Isaiah, chapter 46, verses 9 to 10, that says, and I quote, "Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is no other, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, things not yet done. Jehovah, the ever-faithful God we serve, knew on this day I will stand before you, all in this august house." Mr. Speaker, sir, I am not here to preach, but I want us all at this time in Fiji's history to reflect on the principles that our forefathers lived here in Fiji. Fiji has a dark history with heathenism and cannibalism. If not for the Christian missionaries, we would still be where we were. Hence, for SODELPA, as a political party, one of the founding principles we encourage strongly is to have God-fearing, honest, and hard-working people to lead this great nation of ours. Sadly, there has been a lot of upheaval in SODELPA lately. People like me have never lost sight of the bigger picture. The need to serve our people and improve their livelihoods is a burning desire that drives our days and nights. I've come from a struggling background. My mother went to Primer 3 only, but she taught me and my siblings to value hard work and honesty. When she died, she had $10,000 in her bank account, money she had saved from little sewing businesses and other entrepreneurial work she used to do. It was those principles that I learned to build my business that I founded to be what it is today. Hot Bread Kitchen this year celebrates its 40th anniversary, and over the years we have employed men and women who have built families and sent their children to school to become very useful people of society. I have over 800 staff currently, and for me, we need to be able to walk the talk as leaders, and when we come before our people in this august house, they can say, yes, he or she knows what he or she is talking about. Mr. Speaker, leaders who enter into parliamentary service must be visionary, men and women who serve our people inside and outside of Parliament. In 2014, Mr. Speaker, when the transition happened from Sonko Watani Lewani Bonoa to SODELPA, I remained one of the founding members of the party. At the time of elections then, apart from the Fiji First and National Federation Party, other parties that existed in 2006 were no longer around. SODELPA, therefore, was one of the handful that had the political guts to re-establish itself. And we did so by collecting the necessary signatures from around the countryside as required by law. And for that, I will be forever grateful for the lives of our men and one woman who gallantly went out and did this task for us, even at the expense of being prosecuted for it. SODELPA, true to its nature and intentions to advance the cause of the indigenous Fijian people and to look after everyone, has become a part of this great nation, welcomed all other political parties to come under the umbrella of SODELPA. We had people from SVT, from One Fiji, PDP, Labour, CAMV, and others who joined under the SODELPA banner. So then when people ask what happened in SODELPA, why is SODELPA always fighting? Mr. Speaker, it is because the political ideologies of all these political parties clashed. There was constant power struggle where these other new recruits into the party tried to coup the control of SODELPA by ousting Rote Mumukepa from her leadership of the party in 2015. In fact, they succeeded, as we all know, and took the party to elections in 2018, whereby they had by then managed to recruit candidates who would be loyal to their leadership. Our people will remember, as a result, all the arguments on the use of government grant and the many other evils in SODELPA, where the constitution of the party was disregarded. It is because such gang mentality had taken sprout in SODELPA. Ultimately, Mr. Speaker, we all know the results of such undemocratic and conniving politics. Those same people have either left SODELPA to join newly established party under the leader that tried to coup SODELPA, or they will join him soon. Time will bear testament, Mr. Speaker, to nasty, dirty politics that is not people-centric, but focused on individual power struggles. It is imperative for senior citizens like me, if there is anything else I can be of use for in this august house, to point out such evil intentions that our future generations must be wary of and learn from. Mr. Speaker, those that engage in such unprincipled politics take our people's votes for granted, and they bear no allegiance to our nation and its needs, but their own selfish selves and their kind. Such people must be denounced for who they are, because they are certainly not leaders, as they do not set good examples for our young people to follow. Instead, they teach our future leaders the art of stealing, of conniving, of cronyism and nepotism. And there is no end to the nasties they create in the wake of their departure. Mind you, Mr. Speaker, these traits they will take with them wherever they go, and it's only a matter of time when we will see them squabbling again for positions in the new space they've created for themselves. So SODELPA and our supporters will be the last ones to laugh. Mr. Speaker, we are now at the point where we will very shortly elect our next government. Our people must ask themselves the following questions. What is it that we want from our political leaders? What do we expect them to do for us when they enter Parliament? Mr. Speaker, I have applied and I have been accepted to be a provisional candidate for SODELPA for this coming general elections. I do so because I want to be able to influence policies that are people-centered. I failed to make the first cut into Parliament 2014 and again after 2018 elections. I strongly believe that the old brand of politics of race, religion and provincialism led by my voters led to my voters being robbed of my representation of their interests in Parliament. and that of our people who entrusted their future into the hands of those they chose to stand for parliamentary service. Mr. Speaker, I now implore our people to be wise. They have now seen the nature of politicians. We have. Some will come around asking for their votes, again shamelessly. After disappearing from them following 2018, I trust people will shun such politicians and likewise refuse to vote for leaders who deserted them before completing their terms in Parliament. When politicians do not respect the will of voters and ditch their parties only after 2 years in Parliament, how can they assure that they will not do the same again after 2022 elections? Just because some leadership struggle doesn't come their way. The question to also ask is, did they ask their voters before deserting their posts? Mr. Speaker, we have politicians jumping around from party to party. As someone who has lived life to the full and witnessed a lot of political evolution over time, I look at such people and encourage all of whom I know not to support them. Why? Because the motives of such politicians are certainly not based on political ideologies or issues that can make a difference in the lives of our people. Such politicians follow people they believe will give them a comfortable win without too much struggle. These are opportunists that run around chasing an easy life. And they will use their money, their charm, and even their professional titles to hoodwink people. What a shame, Mr. Speaker, that in a country that has gone through so much political turmoil like ours, there are still those that are so blinded by greed that they will go to any length to hoodwink innocent, struggling citizens. For me, Mr. Speaker, political parties are like a vessel with a captain. If a vessel goes down because of bad weather, it must sink with all its crew. A captain who abandons ship minus his crew is a deserter who must never be trusted again.
Order.
In maritime tradition, it is said the captain goes down with the ship because a sea captain holds ultimate responsibility for both their ship and everyone embarked on it. And in an emergency will either save those on board or die trying. In certain countries, captains who abandon their ships are said to have committed a crime. For me, I believe not completing one's elected political years in Parliament is the ultimate crime for leaders who have let down their people, who entrusted their votes to them. It is sad for those who dare think that such people who have failed them in 2018 can win again this time. What new things will they, as leaders, bring to the voters to enable them to win? Mr. Speaker, Albert Einstein said, and I quote, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results." Mr. Speaker, leadership is about making a difference in people's lives. There is so much that remains to be done. We have people from 3 generations still living in squatter settlements like Ngawea, Valenivina, and Ndonumai, for instance. They are there by the grace of the landowners of such places. But such impoverished settlements cannot be allowed to exist forever without any genuine attempt to provide them with long-term land security, which can be achieved by way of land titles of ownership. Mr. Speaker, sir, I implore our leaders in this august House to stop the blame game. Our people do not want to listen to the rubbish that comes from this House every time we have a parliamentary sitting. Hurling accusations against each other without offering solutions to grant relief for our people must stop. Our youth want jobs and reasonable rent and affordable housing. Our older folks deserve a well-resourced public hospital, not one where 2 mothers died of septicemia in January, February 2020. Such deaths in this modern day and age is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, I have had people from all walks of life asking me for assistance, whether for employment or the street lights like those from Lami Village, or water tanks from the Wikinikini and Olivina, or from Ballantyne Memorial School, where I was asked to repair teachers' quarters, which had become run down and was close to closure by the Lamy Health Department, or to repair a private room at the CWM hospital, which the Honourable Prime Minister then commissioned. My heart has always been burdened to move and to do what I can to assist communities in need, and I did those with my own money. I didn't have to ask for donors to give me money to carry out these important community projects. Mr. Speaker, I am well aware that a lot of these developments are business of government to do. However, we are leaders from the community and we must walk the talk. Parliament is not a place to come and make money or scam money. In this august house, we must plan and devise national policies that serve all of our people. Poverty is an across-the-board issue that deprives people of their basic human rights. Whether in Parliament or outside of it, those who pledge to become servants of the people through this august house must accept that they have the responsibility to provide relief to our people in whatever capacity they can. Mr. Speaker, I therefore ask government to see to it that there is some kind of criteria set for those wishing to stand for politics, that they must have the ability and the resources to conduct some level of national assistance to our people as an enabling criteria for elections candidacy. In the recent past, a political leader has said that during his time of PM, 70% of top civil servants came from his province, and that from his part of the nation. Now, Mr. Speaker, a SODELPA government would never allow such discriminatory policies to be practiced. We will always be fair to our people and ensure an equal representation of all races and people of our various employment sectors. We owe it to ourselves and our younger people a future that promotes equity and stability, not bias, envy, and unnecessary cronyism. Mr. Speaker, I founded Hotbread Kitchen 40 years ago with the late Dr. Samisoni, Tikwa Eastgate, Tony Philp, and bakers like Joe Andrea from Rotuma and the Australian David Bedwood. Whilst my colleagues have passed on and some have moved on to do other things, I have ensured the business has materialized into 27 shops around Fiji, with 2 more targeted for this year. I implore government to support businesses like ours and encourage them with incentives to stabilize during these challenging global environments as we try to recover from COVID-19 pandemic. We must encourage domestic market growth, which comes in handy when the global pressures that are unpredictable come down hard on us. Mr. Speaker, for Hotbread Kitchen, we refuse to send people home as a result of shop closures during COVID pandemic, especially the Western Division. What we decided to do was to get our staff on voluntary reduced hours, or those who prefer to go on leave to do so and resume their things when things normalize. Many of them are now back at work. Mr. Speaker, we must be human about our leadership role. We must understand the struggles of our people in this election preparation period. As national leaders, we must encourage calmness and peace. Each aspiring candidate must continuously ask ourselves, what are our intentions for going into Parliament? We must encourage our community leaders to get people to vote, as it is their civic responsibility. There is no use complaining about your government and resources afterwards if you did not participate in selecting the government of your choice where you had the chance to do so. For us as a political party, we are happy to have gone through our period of uncertainty. It allowed those who never shared the aspirations of SODELPA in the first place and were never true to our party principles to leave us. It is better for everyone in the long run to separate the sheep from the wolves, so to speak. Mr. Speaker, I encourage those who want stable leadership and real change in Fiji to vote SODELPA in the coming elections. Our people must be assured that SODELPA is the only party that has never changed its aspirations. That is why you will not see us engaging in any coalition without proper thought. For we do not believe that the aspirations of our indigenous people, for instance, should be watered down because it is overtaken by other competing political interests. The word of God in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14 guides us that as a result, we are no longer to be children, tossed here and there by waves and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men, by craftiness and deceitful scheming. We will be true to the needs of our fellow countrymen, men and women, and those who wish to invest in our Fiji. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I will end by encouraging us all to do our best in this august House when given the opportunity. For me, these few months I have been granted will be utilized to make meaningful contributions that provide solutions for our nation development. I will want to present for government's consideration the importance of allowing businesses to do what we do best without much interference by way of restrictive legislation. If there be legislation necessary, they must be created in consultation with those it will impact. Mr. Speaker, we must be solution. We must be the solution, not part of the problem. Thank you, and may God bless Fiji.
I thank the Honourable Member for her maiden speech. Honourable Members, we will now proceed to the next item on the order paper. Secretary General.
Confirmation of minutes.
I now call upon the Leader of Government and Parliament, the Honourable Inia Serui Ratu, to move his motion. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, Mr. Speaker, I move that the minutes of sitting of Parliament held on Wednesday, 11th May 2022, as previously circulated, be taken as read and be confirmed.
Is there a seconder?
Honourable Speaker, I beg to second the motion.
Parliament will now vote on the motion. The question is that the minutes of the sitting of Parliament held on Wednesday, 11th May 2022, as previously circulated, be taken as read and be confirmed. Does any member oppose the motion? No. As no member opposes, the motion is agreed to unanimously. Secretary General.
Communications from the Chair.
I welcome all honourable members to today's sitting. I also welcome those joining us in the public gallery and those watching the live broadcast of the proceedings on television. I also extend another welcome to the third group of PL 100 Government and Politics students from the University of the South Pacific. On that note, I also extend a warm welcome to the years 12 and 13 students of Naversau Adventist High School. To both groups, a warm welcome to Parliament, and I hope that you will enjoy the proceedings this morning. Honourable members, at this juncture, I also warmly welcome Ms. Melissa Tipping and Mr. Malcolm Patterson of the Australian High Commission, and Ms. Courtney Rose and Ms. Michelle Padmore from the New Zealand High Commission. They have been in cooperation with us regarding our parliamentary project. I welcome them and thank them for joining us this morning. Thank you, honourable members. We will now proceed to the next item on the order paper. Secretary General.
Presentation of papers and certain documents.
I now call upon the Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service, Communications, Housing and Community Development, the Honourable Ayaz Syed Qayyum, to table his reports. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, in accordance with Standing Order 38, Clause 1, I present the following reports to Parliament. One, the 2018 annual report for the Fiji Public Trustee Corporation Pte Limited, and two, the 2013 to 2017 annual report for the Fiji Rice Pte Limited. Thank you, sir.
Please hand the reports to the Secretary General. Under Standing Orders 38, Clause 2, I refer the 2018 annual report for the Fiji Public Trustee Corporation Limited to the Standing Committee on Social Affairs. Under Standing Orders 38, Clause 2, I refer the 2013 to 2017 annual report for the Fiji Rice Limited to the Standing Committee on Economic Affairs. I now call on the Minister for Commerce, Trade, Tourism and Transport, the Honourable Fire Square, to table his report. Honourable Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Standing Orders 38, Clause 1, I, on behalf of the Honourable Minister for Commerce, Trade, Tourism and Transport, the Honourable Fire Square, present the 2019 to 2020 Investment Fiji Annual Report to Parliament.
Thank you. Please hand the report to the Secretary General. Under Standing Orders 38, Clause 2, I refer the 2019 to 2020 Investment Fiji Annual Report to the Standing Committee on Economic Affairs. I now call on the Minister for Education, Heritage and Arts and Local Government, the Honourable Premila Kumar, to table her report. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, in accordance with Standing Order 38, Clause 1, I present the 2020 Fiji National University Annual Report to Parliament.
Please hand the report to the Secretary General. Under Standing Order 38, Clause 2, I refer the 2020 Fiji National University Annual Report to the Standing Committee on Social Affairs. Thank you, honourable members, and we will move on. Secretary General.
Presentation of reports of committees.
Honourable members, I have been advised that there are no committee reports for tabling today. Secretary General.
Ministerial statements.
I have been advised that there are no ministerial statements for today. We move on. Secretary General.
Consideration of bills.
I now call upon the Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service, Communications, Housing and Community Development, the Honourable Ayaz Syed Qayyum, to move his motion. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to the resolution of Parliament yesterday on Wednesday, 11th of May, I move that the State Lands Amendment Bill 2022 be debated, voted upon, and be passed. Thank you, sir.
Is there a seconder?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to second the motion.
I now call on the Honourable Attorney General to speak on his motion. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the interest of time and also to allow the other members to have more time to be able to respond to this motion, I will be very brief. Essentially, as discussed yesterday when presenting this particular bill to Parliament, Mr. Speaker, sir, this seeks to regularize a long outstanding matter that's been languishing within what I call the legal doldrums, essentially because nobody could find a legal way out, given on one hand the restrictions placed by the law and then the realities on the ground. So we had people for decades living on land where it was acknowledged that they should remain there, yet there was no legal ability for them to be able to access proper title by way of lease that could be granted by the state on all persons residing on Crown land. So with those introductory remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to just end there, but essentially to highlight to all members of Parliament that this will in fact bring about enormous levels of relief to literally thousands of Fijians. It will also ensure that the Lands Department is able to issue proper leases. It will also increase the value of the land on which these people reside on. They'll be able to be mainstreamed into the financial system, be able to access loans from mainstream banks, financial institutions, including organizations like Housing Authority, build proper homes, build resilience, and at the same time, of course, ensure that the legal basis of all land titles, all land leases are actually done within a legal framework which gives a lot of overall confidence to ordinary members of the public and indeed the economy overall. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Honourable members, the floor is now open for debate on the motion. And I give the floor to the first speaker, the Honourable William Ngawuka. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, we understand, we appreciate the need to rectify the issues that have been highlighted in this bill, but we must again stress, Honourable Speaker, our disappointments in the manner this bill has been brought to Parliament. We know it needs to be done, but Honourable Speaker, these are very sensitive issues, very contentious. We could have allowed 1 month for the Standing Committee on Natural Resources to conduct consultation and bring the bill back to Parliament to go through the normal process of passing legislation, Honourable Speaker. When speaking yesterday, Honourable Speaker, the Honourable Minister had indicated that he had had consultation with people, but a particular and very important segment was not consulted. And these are the traditional landowners of these state lands, Honourable Speaker. As I stated, Honourable Speaker, we want to see this matter to be resolved. It has been languishing for quite some time, but anything to do with the land, Honourable Speaker, must not be done in haste. We have said this over and over again. Honourable Speaker, we are talking about land around the area, and when we visited the villages of Moa, they shared with us an experience where they were invited to a commissioning of a project that occurred in the land adjacent to the village, state land, but where they were part of the celebration, part of the opening as landowners. And they asked themselves the question, why are we invited here? Why are we being pampered by the developers when they knew that the land was there traditionally, but is currently under state land? So that appears to be the situation in most parts of the country today, Honorable Speaker, where the landowners are used to be part of the blessings for a project, but knowing fully well that they don't have ownership on the particular land. We want to rectify this, Honorable Speaker. We want people to be secure in their land. Whoever is covered in this lease, Honorable Speaker, we want them to be secure. But we want the traditional landowners to have a say in this, and in fact, to put in place the process to identify who the owners are and give the land back to them. When we say that, Honorable Speaker, we don't mean to say that they will take the land away from the tenants. We will protect the tenants. We will secure their tenancy. They will enjoy all the benefits they've been given. But the land must go back to them. Honorable Speaker, and there are lots of land in Fiji, Honorable Speaker, under this arrangement, Honorable Speaker. Well, yesterday we spoke about Navakai, Gelaloa, General, Honorable Speaker. These are all the land, Honorable Speaker, that need to be used for development. We want development, of course we want development, but don't leave out the landowners in the equation. That is what is happening here, Honorable Speaker. We want to be inclusive. We want to move forward. We thank the government for the development. But an important element to this is the consent, is the participation, is the benefit that goes to the landowners, Honorable Speaker. This is the way ahead, Honorable Speaker. For Sodelpa, this is what we will do. We will encourage development, we will make it available, but everyone will be in the same boat, traveling together. With this, Honorable Speaker, when you include the landowners in anything, it'll be like a rising tide, it lifts all boats. When you leave them out, there is contention and there is insecurity in our land, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are many land, Honorable Speaker, that come under this. Monaco Flats, Navua, Colombo, Honorable Speaker. There's many in Fiji. We need to resolve them, Honorable Speaker. There's a lot of goodwill from the landowners. There's a story told to me by the people of Yako. The land in Wailomba, about 70 leases had expired. They wanted to do something with it. Governments prevailed upon them to renew the cane leases, outer leases, for the sake of the sugar industry, which they did, in good faith, which they did in Wailomba. But, Honorable Speaker, once the lease was given, the tenants sold the land at a higher price and with very little benefit to the landowners. So this good faith, Honorable Speaker, must be respected. Don't just come in, talk about development, and reach everyone else and leave the landowners holding an empty bag, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, as stated...
Point of order, sir. Mr. Speaker,
Point of order.
The amendment is to the State Lands Act. Honourable member is now talking about Itauke land that was leased, and he is therefore now trying to obscure over specifically talking about state lands. It is now bringing Itauke land, where he said that Itauke land was leased out, consented to by the landowners, and the tenants then sold it. As he would also know, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, if you have an Itauke lease, you cannot sell it, you cannot subdivide it without the consent of TLTB and the landowners. He knows that. And he is now bringing Itauke land into discussion of state land. And this is what we had said continuously yesterday. In the introduction I had said, sir, this is to do with state land, not Itauke land. And he's brought that about now, Mr. Speaker. And again trying to mislead, because for them it's political fodder. That's what it is.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You heard.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I was...
Keep to the agenda. The agenda
I was referring,
is on state
Honourable
land.
Speaker, yes, thank you, Honourable Speaker. I was referring to that to indicate the goodwill within the landowning community, a goodwill that must be returned. the way you are going about this, he said it yesterday. There was no consultation with the landowners in the area, traditional landowners. We know that it's state land. We know it's state land, Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, again, the honourable member in his political clamoring is misrepresenting what we said. I never mentioned about no consultation with landowners. I never said that. Please read the Hansard. Please don't mislead Parliament.
Honourable Speaker, if you read Hansard, Honourable Speaker, he talked about consultation. He didn't mention the local community, the local landowners. Isn't that Hansard, Honourable Speaker? So I was referring. Honourable Speaker, all we want is to be inclusive in this country. What you're doing is fine, but please do it in an inclusive manner. That's all we're trying to say, Honourable Speaker. You're leaving them out. You know that there is some of these issues are contentious. Take the time to consult. We all want to move forward. We want to be part of this. We want to progress the country. But do it in an inclusive manner. That's all I'm saying here, Honourable Speaker. And, Honourable Speaker, we have said it many times. You have to uplift the economic well-being of the Itoke in this country. Anything like this, Honourable Speaker, that benefits them, you must take the time to include them in the dialogue, Honourable Speaker. That is, Honourable Speaker, is why we are opposing this bill. We believe it could have been done better. Again, I say, it's something that needs to be done. Government has brought it into his house. It needs to be done, but do it properly, do it in an inclusive manner, so that everyone can progress together in this country. Honourable Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I now give the floor to the next speaker, Minister Semi Koroila Visau. You have the floor.
I didn't know. Honourable Speaker, sir, thank you. I wish to contribute and support Bill 26 of 2022 to amend the State Land Act of 1945. Honourable Speaker, sir, this issue is one of the hottest issues in Nandi area. And the numerous people that approach us because of this situation on state land around Nandi area. Especially over the last 10 years when farmers were told to vacate their land by the opposition. A lot of areas in Nandi, especially suburb like Nassau, areas around Sonisali and Navakai, as alluded to by the leader of the opposition. And I thank him for highlighting those facts, which indicate the opposition's support for the bill before the House. So some of these landlords have sold their blocks for 10,000 to 20,000. And most of these blocks are close to the areas that they personally live in. In some instances, landlords have migrated overseas and basically continue to sell or receive income from these sitting tenants. Honourable Speaker, sir, the Act provides that at the time of making the application for a lease or license under the Act, any person who makes an arrangement or agreement to permit any other person to acquire land in respect of which his or her application is being made should have the permission or the notice given by the Director of Lands of any such arrangement, and cannot be given a lease under the Act without this permission. In some instances, however, occupants of the land as a result of dispossession of land due to political upheaval or cancellation of non-renewal of leases or licenses resort to take refuge in these pieces of land. And there has never been any formal work done to formalize the tenancy that they occupy till today. So the leases who permitted such person to use the land, in this instance, however, did not obtain the consent of the Director of Lands, making the arrangement unlawful under the Act. Honourable Speaker, the Act will ensure that no person being the holder or lessee or license under this Act may enter into make an arrangement or agreement to permit any other person to sell, give away, or allow them to build on that piece of land. So it is very clear, and it is very imminent that this Act must be changed to accommodate all these issues. Honourable Speaker, I am 110% sure that the opposition will only oppose this bill with the excuse that the bill has come under Order 51. Always. We on the government side know and expect this, as the opposition do not have any other post to lean on. The members of this August Parliament and the people of Fiji are fed up with the opposition for dragging on and delaying all these necessary changes. The changes are required, it is imminent, it is necessary. All the opposition does is to drag it along this chamber to delay the formalization of these changes. It is very clear in the standing orders. Honourable Speaker, sir, the standing orders allows it. There's a provision in the standing order for us to change laws, to change rules that are imminent and required immediately. And that is Order 51. Honourable Speaker, sir, maybe I should educate the opposition members what is contained in 51. A motion requesting that Parliament consider a bill without delay may be moved without notice, shall be moved by a member moving the bill. Exactly what the Honourable Attorney General is doing. What's wrong with you? What's the matter? The rule needs to be changed. The laws need to be changed. Come on. Be an adult. Come on board. Let's change it. Thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Thank the Honourable Minister for his contribution to the debate. I now give the floor to the Honourable Prime Minister. You have the floor.
Hey, be seated.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I rise to speak on the motion by the Attorney General. But before I do so, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate and thank Honourable Mary Naulumatua for a wonderful statement this morning in Parliament. As they say, she took the words right out of my mouth, something that we've been saying all along. As much as I would like Pepe's the other half, the NFP sitting here, members of the NFP sitting here, to take that on board, I doubt very much that that's going to happen. They've been walking around in a cul-de-sac all this time. Mr. Speaker, my government has implemented legislative reforms and innovative strategies for the benefit of all Fijians. These new measures were undertaken with extensive consultations. Mr. Speaker, the government saw a need to reform archaic legislation that hindered socio-economic development and facilitate support measures for those affected. We provide opportunities for Fijians to not only own their own homes through our first home purchase program, but to also regularize informal tenants that reside on certain land. In this case, as you heard, state land. If my government was irresponsible, Mr. Speaker, we could have just allowed tenants to settle in informal settlements and to have an insecure future. But as everyone knows, Mr. Speaker, that is not my government. Mr. Speaker, we do things the right way by ensuring that Fijians not only have homes and formal leases, but can also access financial systems and proper services such as electricity, clean water, footpaths and roads. In essence, Mr. Speaker, This bill ensures a very important and fundamental right of every Fijian. According to Section 35 of the Constitution, government must take reasonable measures within its available resource to achieve the progressive realization of the right of every person to access in adequate housing and sanitation. This amendment, Mr. Speaker, will allow Fijians who are currently residing on state land and have obtained informal approval from the lawfully registered lessee to formalize these arrangements. Mr. Speaker, in many cases, the initial registered lessee cannot be located or simply does not have the capacity to be able to subdivide the land, which was sold without consent many years prior. Mr. Speaker, the Director of Lands, through this amendment to the State Lands Act, will have the proper authority to re-enter such land or cancel a lease for such purposes. However, there are certain guidelines, clear guidelines, on how to go about this before any decision can be made. There is a committee headed by the Permanent Secretary for Housing and Community Development must first determine any contravention to the State Lands Act and then propose a course of action. These are proper checks and balances, Mr. Speaker, in place to ensure that there's no abuse of this authority and that each case is reviewed thoroughly before determining the best way forward for all parties involved. An important outcome of regularizing land is that occupants will have security of land tenure to be able to build permanent homes. Leaseholders will be mainstreamed into the financial system and will be able to use their land titles as collaterals when they approach financial institutions for bank loans and other services, including insurance to rebuild their properties in the event of a natural disaster. Mr. Speaker, we also want to ensure that properties are built to quality standard. Improper leasing creates a lot of uncertainty for occupants. This is reflected in the types of houses they build, which are more often than not unable to withstand the ferocity of natural disasters. The best approach for any disaster, Mr. Speaker, is to be prepared by building resilient infrastructure. A key strategy of my government is to develop and enforce building standards for home construction that requires improved resilience to cyclones and flooding, as outlined in the National Development Plan. The Fijian government is committed to growing our economy, supporting ordinary Fijians and improving their livelihoods, and for greater sustainability. Mr. Speaker, in summary, this amendment to the State Lands Act will assist many Fijians who have for years faced uncertainty in securing proper lease titles. They will be provided with the opportunity to safeguard their families' lives and their future generation. This reaffirms my government's commitment to leaving no one behind. Based on these remarks, Mr. Speaker, I do support the amendment to the State Lands Act. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable Prime Minister for his contribution to the debate. Honourable members, on that note, we'll take a break for morning tea. Adjourn.